Do you want to make sure that there's no cash left on the table by your retail business in 2026? Well, if so, this episode will definitely help you with that. Hello to the lovely retailers, hospitality heroes, makers and independent legends. Welcome back to Retail Reckoning. I'm Clare Bailey, the retail champion, and today we're diving into the truth-telling, margin-making, if slightly painful Christmas debrief. Yep, it's that time.
Yeah, retail reckoning. No space for dusty shelves, 'cause retail reckoning owns the floor.
Put the leftover mince pies down, grab yourself a coffee or something stronger, and let's take a brutally honest look at what actually happened this peak. What worked, what flopped, and what needs to change if 2026 is going to be the year you stop leaving money on the table. If there's one thing I know after working with thousands of independent businesses, the real growth isn't in working harder, it's in working smarter, as the saying goes. Starting with the things that quite often get ignored. So, right, my first question. Did Christmas deliver what you expected? And I don't want the glossed up, "Oh, we did fine, thanks" version. The truth. Let's talk about two classic situations that every independent business owner secretly obsesses over, but doesn't really often sit down to analyse properly. What about the sellout items you kicked yourself over because you weren't properly stocked? Furthermore, what about the stubborn, slow movers that clung to the shelves like, your granny's tinsel? Well, let's start with these. The sellouts and missed margin. Think about what flew out the door faster than a toddler after Santa. What sold out a week too early? Why did customers keep asking after you'd run dry, "Have you got any more of that?" These are the moments that sting because they're pure, unfiltered, lost profit. You could have sold more, you could have made more, and next year you will, if you capture this properly. And this is about backing your winners and making sure your stock profile is there to support your sales forecast. And be bold. Then we need to look at your shelf sitters. That's pure margin erosion. These need to be the ones that you have a when it's gone policy on. But they end up being the ones you had to discount. They've eaten up margin and then made you ask yourself, why on earth did I think this was a good idea? These lines are not just annoying, but they're data. That insight, despite being a failure potentially, is important, sometimes humiliating, but valuable, and data nonetheless to inform future decision making. And data is what gives you the power to make better decisions in 2026. The next question that we all ask ourselves. Did you have enough staff? Was the staffing, service and customer experience really up to standard? Do you believe your service levels were solid? Or did returns spike? What were customers actually saying about you? The good and the bad. Here's the hard, cold truth, basically. Your peak season exposes everything. And if there's a weakness, Christmas is going to shine a blinding fairy light on it. So I've got a couple of checklists for you so that we don't miss anything. What you need to review are compliments and complaints, service bottlenecks. Did you have queues, abandoned baskets, offline and, more importantly, online? Product questions you got asked 1,000 times? Packaging issues. Did anything get damaged? Things that delighted your customers and things that irritated them. So that's my checklist. Using that, that's where you find where the golden moment lies. Because every frustration is a fixable problem. Every positive is something you can repeat and do more of the same. Then we have to look at things that are somewhat beyond your control, but not entirely. Things like footfall, online traffic, and so on. Were your customer numbers up? Did you get more e-commerce orders? And have you got more people signed up for emails or any loyalty system, newsletter, or more following on your social channels? If your answer is yes, that's great. If it's no, that would be now a priority. If the answer's now I'm not sure, then we probably need to talk about your analytics setup, because if you don't know your numbers, it's like driving with a blindfold on. It's really important to understand what's going on in the business. And understanding some of these metrics, although they don't directly translate to sales, they can translate to sales. The more people who are listening to you, the more people who are likely to buy from you or recommend you. The next part is where things get a little bit juicy. Your range review. This is your biggest lever for profit. Now, your range is the single biggest driver of margin, cash flow, and customer satisfaction and loyalty. And at Christmas, it's the most revealing moment to measure whether your range worked or not. So I have another checklist for you. I want you to refer to your business data, EPOS, or whatever else you've got and check the following things. So this would be your sell-through rates, your margins, your SKU count, and therefore SKU proliferation. So, for example, you've got 2 SKUs that do the same job, and therefore identification of potential cannibalization between SKUs, where you could have consolidation of range. Also look for gaps, where perhaps you weren't offering a good, better, best, or there was a potential to add another category or type of product to increase basket size and so on. You need to spot your overcrowded categories where perhaps you've just got too much choice. And also, going on from that, I think it's important to understand the impulse buying behaviours, the things that you put right next to the till. What are the things that people might pick up? And if you're in, say, a ladies' wear retailer and there might be a little tiny handbag-sized perfume or some incense sticks or a relaxing candle next to the till, would that bump up the basket size that people just pick up whilst they're waiting? And then back to my checklist, you have to review your seasonal products versus continuity items, because seasonal make you a boost in profit in the season, but continuity is what keeps you alive all year round. And so this is where your EPOS data matters. And if you don't already have an EPOS, it's probably one of the singular most important tools for any retail, hospitality, leisure business that you can imagine. Your data won't lie, but sometimes your gut feel will. And moderating gut feel and instinct with tangible business data is really important. So when it comes to EPOS data, got you another short checklist. You need to use things like last year's sales, this year's trends, which won't come from your EPOS, but might come from reading documents. For example, there's trend documents available online and there's insights and reports. And if you're lucky enough to be able to get down to the British Library, you can get access to a lot of that for free. You've got your own customer feedback, their social comments. You can speak to your suppliers and get industry predictions and also buyer insights in terms of what categories your suppliers believe are on trend. But your EPOS data is essential for things like last year's sales, margin, promotional performance, sell-through rate, stock cover, and so on. You use this kind of insight to then begin to shape your 2026 range architecture. And that's your high-level overview, the shape of the range, before you break it down into more detail. I mean, you might have some indication on categories, percentage performance by category, and so on, but maybe you haven't got as far as category, subcategory, SKU count. Within the SKU count, how do each product perform in terms of good, better, best? You might not fully have appreciated how you might pull back on continuity lines to allow space for highly seasonal allocations and impulse purchases. It might not necessarily at this stage include your feature lines, your continuity and your newness strategy, but these are all really, really important to ultimately range architecture leading into range plan. And this is the exact kind of prep work you need to be doing now before you hit up the trade shows in early February. So if you're walking into Spring Fair, on the 2nd of February, for example, if you walk into Spring Fair or Top Drawer or Moda or any of these other major exhibitions and shows without the analysis done, it's like you're shopping blind, but you're not shopping blind for you. You're shopping blind for your ideal customer. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the ideal customer, not think about what you like, well, unless you're lucky enough to be your own ideal customer, which doesn't apply to everybody. And you need to think about all these different things. What can you sell in volume? What will make you the maximum margin? What is going to actually wow the customers, bring them through the door and keep them coming back throughout the season? Given that in February, you're buying potentially as far ahead as autumn-winter 2026 and beginning to even entertain Christmas 2026 10 months early, this is so fundamentally important because I read somewhere that depending on the nature of the retail business, Christmas sales represent between 30 and 60% of your annual profits. This is not one to get wrong. And leading on to that, we look at product life cycle. And my brilliant colleague Kim, who's even more geeky than me, breaks this down using the Boston Consulting Matrix into stars, dogs, cash cows, and question marks. And that's a real retail discipline. So if it's a star, it's selling well and it's profitable. If it's a cash cow, it reliably sells. It's not particularly glamorous, but it keeps the money coming in. If it's a dog, it's barely selling and wasting space. And unless that dog exists in a basket with a star or a cash cow, thus you could suggest to yourself that the consumer buys the basket. And if the dog wasn't on your range, they wouldn't buy the higher profitability items. That's something to get rid of. And a question mark is maybe new, maybe you're unsure at the moment, it could go either way, but it's one to watch. And this leads to some serious decisions. Obvious, really, if you think about it. Invest in the winners, support the rising stars, delete the dogs as long as they don't belong in the baskets with some of the better products, and test the question marks before committing heavy stock levels and significant order sizes. This is how you're actually going to protect your cash flow and avoid your sort of January to February fear range shopping when you realise your stock levels are a little bit out of whack. Stock leads me on to thinking about supplier management. I think it's really important to think you're not alone. Suppliers work with potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of businesses like yours, and they have insights. So why not use them? Suppliers are more than always willing to give those insights, and supplier management is all about creating a collaborative relationship. So you can ask them questions like, what's selling well in the wider customer base? They don't have to tell you who the customers are, as long as it's, within your relatively local geographic market. You can ask them what's kind of falling off the radar for them, what's tanking and why. So what are the suppliers considering delisting that you should be potentially delisting too? A really killer question is what point of sale, as in posters, signage, window displays and so on, or marketing support can they offer you? Because quite often suppliers will offer you marketing support so that you can promote their product and stimulate their sales too. Because remember, you're their distribution channel. Without you, who the hell are they going to sell to? I mean, they might be able to sell online, but having physical retail outlets certainly makes their life a whole lot easier. Then you could ask them things like, are they planning to discount for promotions and are they planning to pass those discounting opportunities on to you? You could ask them what they've got in new product development for next year, so looking even further ahead. But you could also ask them what's going to be discontinued so you can plan your stock profiles and so on. And the thing is, most small retailers don't ask. The big guys definitely do. And suppliers aren't going to volunteer the information if they're not asked. It's just extra work. So ask always, because if you don't ask, you don't get. Linking to some of the comments on suppliers as well, we've got to consider your pricing and promotions. And it's more about value and less about margin giveaway if you really want success. Because you can't discount your way to success unless you're a scale of operation akin to Aldi and Lidl, which generally most aren't. It's just not viable, it's not sustainable. But you can build strategies that add value without destroying your margin. Things like the pricing ladder. I love a pricing ladder. Good, better, best. Your target customer wants to solve a problem and you have, let's say, 3 products that solve their problem. One is good. It has to be good. And it's at the entry price point. And that solves the problem. But generally speaking, they kind of want a few more bells and whistles. So they might trade up to better. And if they're feeling particularly flush, they might go for best. Usually people settle at the better level. So it's a bit like a standard distribution curve. A few buy at good, a few buy at best, and most buy at better. But at least you're giving choice to people. So if they're having a difficult month, maybe your customer's self-employed and they've had a contract cancelled, they might trade down to good, or they've had a big win and they might treat themselves to best. But having that structure in place gives them the choice without overwhelm. And I think it's also important to consider promotions. They're a lever to influence buying behaviours from your consumers, and they're not a crutch to get rid of dead stock. That would be clearance, which is fundamentally different. So promotions can be things like highlighting products, creating bundles, adding value through other means than just discounting. A way to manage this is to tie offers to a marketing calendar. So using calendar events like school holidays, religious celebrations, Easter, Christmas and so on, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, sporting events. I mean, it really depends what you sell, what key activities go on your marketing calendar, but then you can use promotions and window displays and highlighting to draw attention to products that are relevant to a particular moment in time, or to do with end of season, which is where we're looking more at clearance than we are at what you would class as promotion. And I do think there's an important distinction there. You can also link pricing to stock levels. So having the when it's gone, buying small batches, particularly of high fashion or high seasonable items, is really important because it creates the fear of missing out, and it means that people are more likely to buy at full price rather than not get one at all. And as we mentioned before in supplier management, there's often a lot of supplier funded support available, and it's definitely available. So ask them and use it when it's offered. And these are really the strategies you need to use to protect your profitability while still delivering some excitement and newness and perceived value in store or online. The other area, linking to that, promotions and so on, is to make sure you get your marketing, your merchandising in store, and I guess the e-commerce merchandising is just as relevant, and everything discoverability right. Because I think 2026 we won or lost on this. So the first one is about having a good integrated marketing strategy, online and offline. So getting those promotional calendars we just touched on sorted now, and not having last minute scrambles. So you can plan things like the campaigns you might do according to the time of year, the themes you might go with. So love is in the air for Valentine's Day. Everyone's got a mum, so Mother's Day. Themes of any types, and link your campaigns to your themes. And then that flows through. So if you've got physical presence, window displays, online presence, it could be banners or a change to a little bit of a template or something particular about the way the styling looks. Then you could even be looking at events, whether they're local events or events that you run. I know in a couple of locations they do certain trails like an Easter egg hunt and so on. They're really useful because it gets people out and about, families, collecting stickers or tokens or something to redeem an Easter egg at the end, but it gets them to go into the shop. Then this can percolate through to things like email marketing content. I've already mentioned website look, but refreshes. It might be about changing some of the language and product descriptions to make it more search friendly for that particular time of year or campaign. You might be able to offer online gift guides, top products for Mother's Day, under £10, under £20, under £50 and so on. And there could be local partnerships whereby you could collaborate. So you might be a confectioner and there's a florist down the road and there's somebody that does balloon art. You could come together and put something beautiful together as a package, as a local partnership, or simply put on a local shopping event. There's loads and loads of opportunities to bring online and offline marketing to life. When it comes to e-commerce, I'd have to ask, if you're not selling online, why? Because it's affordable, and even if it only acts as a catalogue and drives footfall to your store, it still gives people an insight into the products that you offer. And then further down the line, if they've experienced your service, they might want to buy online, click and collect, or come in and collect and whatever, but it just offers you that extra channel to market. If you are selling online, it's important to think all the time about how to make it as frictionless as possible, how to make it easier, faster, cleaner and clearer. Get that transaction through, and to embed things like remarketing for basket abandonment. And Steph in our team is one of the genius e-commerce people. She had an independent business herself for 10 years and ran a highly effective e-commerce site. So If anybody's worrying about that, give me a shout and I'll hook you up with Steph. Actually, to be fair, Steph's also our search guru. She advocates local search, as do I, because your Google business profile is free and it's your shop window for customers who haven't found you yet. The number of searches for the thing you offer near me that people do on their phones when they're in a place they don't particularly know is immense. And having the pin on your premises, not centre of postcode, having some good photography, having some decent wording, correct opening hours. Oh, please don't get me started on that. How many times have I turned up somewhere and they're closed, but it says they're open on Google? It's just so simple. And you don't even need a website. It can just take people to your Facebook page or your Instagram if you haven't yet set up e-commerce. But it's so powerful. My argument on this would be if you haven't fully optimized and looked at the potential of your Google business profile, get started. In fact, start yesterday. That leads us into social media. Customers buy from brands they know, like, and trust. And if you're silent online, they don't really know you. So having a good presence on the consumer-facing platforms, so the likes of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those kind of platforms. But if you're not already there, start with one, get that right, and build from that. But in 2026, being invisible on socials just makes people wonder if you're a scammer or not. They expect it. It's a simple fix, just to be visible. I've said lots now, but my final word, I guess, I want 2026 to be your best year yet. I want it to be my best year. I want it to be everybody's best year, despite what's happened in the last two budgets. I think if you're brave and bold and decisive, everything you need to make next year exceptional is already in your hands. If you've got the data from this Christmas, great. If not, let's look at getting you an EPOS in place. The experience your customers had, learn from it. The gaps in your range, build on it. And the opportunities just staring you in the face like out of stocks or not sold through products, sort it. And if you're still sitting there thinking, Claire, I know I need to do this, I don't have the time or the systems or the headspace, then just please reach out. I've got a really fabulous team at the Retail Champion, and we've worked with thousands of independent retail, hospitality, leisure, personal care and visitor-facing businesses. And we help with everything from strategy to e-commerce, even email marketing, socials. Kim's brilliant on store layout and merchandising and customer experience. I cover, along with Kim, range planning, supply chain, pricing and promotions, your EPOS analytics, how to make decisions from your data. And ultimately, it's all about turning the chaos that you might be feeling and the overwhelm you might be feeling into clarity, strategy and actions that actually deliver the business results that you need, given the backdrop of the prevailing economic situation. So if you want 2026 to be the year you stop winging it and start winning, we'd love to help. Just give us a shout. I'm happy to have a no-obligation introductory call. Check out retailchampion.co.uk and let's get you future ready. Well, anyway, here's to an incredible year ahead. One built on smart decisions, solid processes, and the courage to take bold action. You've got this, and I'm here to help you make sure you absolutely smash it. Until next time, go be brilliant. My name's Clare Bailey, the Retail Champion, and this was Retail Reckoning.
Yeah,